Hello again everyone, welcome to another video. Now, right in front of me here, should be immediately obvious to some of you, these are Ubiquiti access points. These are wireless access points manufactured by Ubiquiti for their Unifi range. On the right here we have a Unifi Nano HD, and on the left here we just have a normal AC HD. And these are kind of the two extreme sizes. So this is one of the smallest, this is one of the biggest in terms of physical sizes for Ubiquiti. But they should be fairly obvious. They're round access points. They have a round center section with a light up ring of usually blue, sometimes green. Occasionally they're RGB if you were lucky enough to get an RGB set. And they have their name of they have the Unifi Ubiquiti logo in the middle. Now, this, obviously, as per my last video, is totally not a Unifi. This is the Ipom AX300. Yeah, this is the Unifi clone. So, as you can see, it's kind of a little bit bigger, but it shares the exact same design because obviously they're trying to play on the design to make it look like something it's not. This is the one that failed, and I still have not yet managed to get it revived. It lights up, but it is bricked. Therefore, there's not a lot of use to me. But imagine what happens when you find out that there's a company here in the UK that are pretty well known in IT circles for being the very, very budget end of the market. Let me introduce you to the Tenda i29. Yes, I can't believe it's not Unifi either. This is well, according to their own marketing, this is a Wi-Fi 6 Plus AP. It's a long-range AP. It's WPA3 encrypted, and it needs 802.3 ATPoE. This is the new generation of Wi-Fi 6 APs. Supports 160 megahertz bandwidth. Its rate is nearly 3 times higher than that of Wi-Fi 5. And there's a lot of stuff mentioning OFDMA, MU-MIMO, and so on and so forth. Now, this is also, which I'll bring up on the screen, badged as the Ipom 6 or Pro 6 LR. And it's the same access point, but I managed to find one in the UK. And I haven't unboxed it yet. It's still sealed. I haven't unsealed this yet because I thought, you know what? Let's see if this works using the Ipom software for a laugh, because the only management controller that you can get for this is the Tenda M3, which is identical to the Ipom managed controller. So we'll have a look at this as an AP, and we'll see if this Tenda AP works with the Ipom software, because if it does, again, I might finally be able to do at least one review of a Wi-Fi managed, centrally managed, completely not a Unifi thing. So we'll have a laugh. First things first, however, I am going to need to unbox this. Fresh out of the box. This is going to be my first look at it, probably your first look at it. So just in case you are unaware who Tenda are in the UK and mostly around the world, the low-end market networking equipment. They're not a brand I would normally have here. I only have this purely and simply because I thought it was kind of amusing that there are companies out there that are still trying to ride Ubiquiti's coattails for the Unifi range by cloning the actual design of their APs. So let's have a look. It's large. We've got the thorough installation guide. We've got the user manual. We've got a GNU public license information, so there's obviously some open source stuff. And we have the access point. And it's big, but interestingly, it doesn't weigh a lot. So I'm not holding hope for that. What else have we got? We've got a power adapter. That's a 48-volt power adapter. We've got what looks like a PoE. Oh dear. We've got a PoE injector, but it's not a PoE injector. It's just a passive PoE. So this is passive 48-volt injector. Yeah, that will put out the way. We've got some screws with some very, very cheap wall plugs. And if you remember me opening the Ipom, they look very similar. And if you remember me opening the Ipom up, we've got, yeah, those look like to go on the top of ceiling tiles. So there we go. Nothing else in the box. That is what is in the box. The box can now go out the way. And let's have a look at the access point, shall we? In all its glory. Right. The Tenda AX3000 Wi-Fi 6 long-range access point. Power 802.3 AT, 4857 volts. And IP address 192.168.0.254. Username and password admin. Interesting, that probably doesn't comply with. We'll see what happens when we try and connect into this, but that probably is not compliant anymore with California law. But let's just do a size comparison. That's the Tenda. There's the AC HD. In terms of, I mean, the AC HD is significantly heavier. If I had scales up here, I would say this is probably almost twice the weight of this. I mean, this is that's quite. If you've handled one of these, they are quite a substantial AP. This is just plastic, so yeah, I can see why this is obviously at the lower end of the market. Now, if you give me 2 minutes, I'm going to get this thing plugged in, turned on, and I'm going to get my machine connected over to it, and we'll go over to there to have a quick look at it. And hopefully with this one will last longer than this one did. Because, I mean, they feel like they're kind of made out of the same quality plastic. This is the bigger brother to this one. But yeah, we'll get onto this and see how it goes. Quickly while I plug it in, just had a quick look underneath. We've got two net reports actually here, one PoE, one non. The reset switch is tucked in under there. It's pressable with your finger. Probably hear that clicking. We've got also the ceiling / wall / whatever mount, and it does actually have some little raised lugs, so I'm assuming they might be expecting this to get hot. But yeah, again, standard. Click to lock, click to unlock. No actual lock on that I can see. No. So again, very easy to undo. So let's get this plugged in a minute, and we should get some nice pretty lights. I've had to take you off and get you so close to this because the light is so dim that you cannot see it in any reasonable amount of light. But there is a light on in there. Yeah. Yes. This is always a good start. Now, for those of you who wanted to know what the Ipom web config page looked like, it looked like this, but instead of saying Tenda, it said Ipom. But this is the web configuration page for the Tenda / Ipom access points. It's very, very basic. So just from the top, obviously, we can see the general system status here. We've got the firmware version. We've got uptime. We've got the hardware version on this. We've got its IP addressing, its MAC address. We can go through and we can look at the wireless status and the built-in SSIDs that are already ready to be enabled and broadcast a bit of traffic status so you can see what's going on, and obviously connected clients. There is a quick setup which allows you to configure basically a wireless network, whether you want to on 2.45 gig or 2.4 and 5 gig, and which security you want. So we could go all the way up to WPA3 SAE, but we're not going to do that. Static IP. This was the page that killed my last IPCOM. This was the page that when I set it from static to DHCP, my unit never rebooted. So I'm not going to do that for now, just in case, because I'd like to review this one a little bit longer if that's possible. Interestingly, you have an option down the bottom here that says optimize Ethernet for faster speeds, auto negotiation, or longer distance, 10 meg full duplex. So what that's basically saying is you can break the Ethernet standard for distance RAN just by dropping the speeds down, because that's something that you should never do. So there we go. We've got wireless options, so we can turn on, obviously, the SSID on the 2.4 and the 5 gig channels. We can specify that they're a guest network. We've got broadcast SSID or not, maximum number of clients, SSID, Chinese SSID encoding, security mode again, as per previous. We've got the RF settings, which by default, obviously, you can tell where this access point is targeted at originally, as the default region is China, which is not necessarily a great thing, and should, for example, here be on, if I can find it in the list, where's the United Kingdom? Don't have UK in the list. Probably not supposed to be sold in this country then. Unless it's not under it's under England. There we go. So I'm going to change that now anyway, just so that I'm not breaking any rules. We've got some RF optimization here. Interestingly, that OFDMA is off by default. You ideally want that on because that gives you a much faster experience. WMM, access control, so you can do some MAC address blocking or allowing, and VLANing or QVLANing, as they've put it here. We've got some tools as well. The time zone obviously being in Beijing, which is wrong. So let's correct the time zone. It will sync with internet time, sync with PC time. There we go. Logout interval, which is exactly that. We've got the standard rebooty stuff. The nice, pretty administrator and guest account. I look good in green. A system log. Some diagnostic tools where you can ping. And if you are using, I've got uplink detection. Now, I'm guessing that is what would traditionally be called a watchdog timer. So that will basically disable RF if it can't ping anything. So you can set it obviously to ping the gateway. If it can't ping the gateway, it will turn the wireless network off. Or if it can't ping the gateway, it will reboot. That can stick you into a nice reboot cycle for a while if needed. But there we go. So what I am now going to do is I have loaded up a copy of Ipom's Unifi controller clone, which I showed in the last video. I shall bring that over here. There it is. So this is the Ipom Profi controller. And if you haven't seen this before, yes, this is a pretty much direct rip of Unifi, but they've just changed the name slightly. Everything about this screams Unifi. So yes, even down to how the actual logos look. Very similar to how TP-Link Armada looked for a while as well. So let me spend a little bit of time. I need to do a firmware update on the access point to the latest version, and I will see if it appears in this controller, because at the moment Tenda do not have a standalone hosted controller available that is not part of a hardware appliance. It's the same hardware appliance that Ipom use, therefore I'm taking an educated guess that this might work. Now, a bit of time has passed, and I have done some work and done some investigation, and no, the Profi controller will not see the Tenda access point. But what does work is you can use the CloudFi controller, which is Tenda's cloud-hosted system. Now, if you hadn't guessed by now, Tenda and Ipom are, to all intensive purposes, the same company. Nothing makes this more obvious than me logging into the CloudFi portal with the username and password that I set up on the Profi portal, which was supposedly a different portal run by a different company altogether. Yes, I would like to see the GDPR status on that one. Anyway, I have connected my Tenda AP to the Tenda CloudFi portal, and this is the Tenda CloudFi portal. Let me bring it in a bit closer. And the way this works is very, very similar to pretty much every other cloud-hosted system. It's just a bit basic. It works more akin to the Ryuji hosted platform, if you've ever seen that. You set a project up, which is basically a site, and within your project, you have obviously routers, switches, access points, mesh APs or cable-free APs, and it shows the clients that are online. You get a visualization, but I haven't got a floor map in this. Configuration-wise, again, you can go in, you can set up internet connections, VLANs, DHCP policies, obviously if you've got routers, static routes, routing tables, and port mapping. Wireless side, so from here we can see I have added the i29, which is what this is, and it is currently online and talking. I can add an SSID from here, so let's add a test SSID, we'll give it the wonderful password of something random like password, and we can obviously specify a VLAN we want that on, maximum number of clients, and we can put it either as a guest network or we can schedule it to shut down at certain times. So let's just confirm that. And if we scroll over to here, we can deliver the wireless policy, which, again, doesn't seem to make much sense. And I can say I want to deploy test on everything, and it's a bit clicky. Appears you can have 7 SSIDs. I'll go confirm on that. Policy delivered successfully. So again, it allows you to basically process through, and it will now state that it's delivering the test SSID policy, which is interesting naming. We can sort of put in some RF optimization, so we can auto optimize, we can schedule optimize, and we've got a bit of manual device management, which will enable us to obviously look up the current status and any clients. I've got nothing connected to it. Configuration. I can unbind certain things and should give me RF details. Yeah, so it's in the wrong country. I'll go through that at some point. And we also get data and client, etc., etc. So it's a fairly basic cloud-hosted system. Now, this is a budget solution. And I'm not going to say it doesn't work, because it does. But it is targeted at a very, very, very budget audience. I'm not going to be someone going out there to recommend this to anybody. It's not what we would recommend to any of our clients, unfortunately, because the quality and the unknown risk factors, especially using a cloud management portal that is hosted who knows where. It's probably hosted in China, to be honest. So, yes, it's an interesting concept. Is it a Unifi beta? No, it's not. Is it something that they're trying to compete, or to all intensive purposes, out ubiquity by going in with a small feature set that's similar? Yes. In other exciting news, I managed to get the other AP to come back to life. What I'm now going to do is see if I can connect the Ipom AP to the Tenda cloud and see if it will list it there. What I am then going to also try and do, if it will let me, is to flash the Tenda firmware for the identical AP that Tenda have listed, which is the i27, which is this one here. And I am going to have a look and see if I can flash this firmware onto the Ipom unit and add it that way, because I have them here, and why not? Well, that access point didn't last long. I have figured out why it doesn't behave. The simple fact is, when it is on DHCP, it does not pick up a DNS server or a gateway. And when you set a static IP and you try and connect it to their cloud management portal, the AP crashes. So take from that what you will. Yes, that is basically the quality product from Ipom/Tenda. The CloudFi system, which is what they've called it, which is different from the ProFi system from Ipom, is in its infancy. I don't know how far they will take it before they abandon it, and if they abandon it, then again, there's the potential there for a very high risk if you are looking at using any product like this for business or even for home. So, yes. The Tenda i29. It's an interesting AP, I'll give it that, and the CloudFi system is an interesting solution at a very, very low budget. Now, just to cover off a few final things with this AP, you can see quite clearly now that we've also got the blue ring, which again matches what Ubiquiti do with the Unifi range. You can see here I have the Ipom unit plugged in. It comes and goes as it pleases. See, it's all plugged into an AutoLab switch, and it's running through my little firewall of purple over there for testing. But this is the same manufacturer, just badging things slightly differently. But the quality is the same between the two. It's low. It's very, very low. Take the PoE injector here. So this is a 48-volt transformer. Obviously, it's got a UK plug on it, but it injects 48 volts straight in to a passive adapter. So you connect a LAN port in, the connection out to the access point goes there, powering 48 volts passively, which obviously is non-negotiated. So if you accidentally plug a cable into there and plug the other end, say, into your laptop or into a device, it may do you some damage. So these generally nowadays are to be avoided at all costs. Passive PoE on a network is to be avoided unless you know what you are doing, because it can damage and it can break stuff. Put that over there out of the way. Anyway, all things aside, this will work. There's nothing to say that it won't work, other than the fact that just don't buy the Ipom badge stuff, buy the Tenda badge stuff. It's the same hardware. It's the same cheap plasticky hardware, but it's the same hardware. There's no difference. I had a very bizarre instance where when that thing came back to life, I was actually logging into it, and I logged into this with all the branding on it being Tenda until I did a full reset of the page. That's how basically low quality the programming is on these. They are targeted at the entry level of the entry level systems. We don't install these on any of our clients. We don't use anything by manufacturers such as Tenda. They're not even on our radar. So that is for you to decide if you are willing to accept the risk. From our side, we don't. Purely and simply because whilst you see Tenda in a lot of shops, computer shops, IT related shops, they are a very, very budget level product. And that's not a risk we're willing to accept. And you can tell that just by the weight and the quality of that as a product. So, yes, the Tenda i29, everybody. Now, hopefully this has been useful to you. Hopefully this has given you some insight into a few things. This was never going to be a performance test. This was never going to be a throughput test of these devices. That's not what I do. Generally with wireless, if a wireless access point is going to work and it was going to work well, it will have good quality behind it at the same time. These do not. It's more a case of with this, I reviewed the Ipom product that failed miserably and found out finally why it's failing in this video. Someone on social media, they know who they are and they will get ribbing for it. Found the Tenda version after I explained the link between Ipom and Tenda on a live stream, and I thought, why not? So that's why I did this, for no other reason than it's out there. There are products like this out there. There are more out there, and I'm sure people will send me links. Feel free to come and join the Discord, links down below, and post me links. And if there's any that catch my eye that I think that should be interesting, or that's something that actually I think people need to be aware of, I may acquire the product so that I can actually review it on my own terms. I would not be recommending anything manufactured by Tenda to any of our clients. I wouldn't be recommending it to you guys. So yes, buyer beware. The quality of these products is low. They are entry-level products. They are targeted so low down in the market that we wouldn't have them anywhere near. If we find products like this, because Tenda are not the only manufacturer, there are other ones, I would not let them anywhere near our networks. For the same reason that I do not let unbranded switches, unbranded or low-branded devices anywhere near our networks. So there we go. Hopefully this has been useful. Thank you if you've got this far for watching. And please do like, comment, subscribe. Come and join us over on Discord, as I said. And we'll see you in the next one.